Good morning, everybody. I'm Tech Sergeant Villanueva. I'm your ARPC Rising 6 Vice President. Also attending is our Treasurer, Staff Sergeant Matthew Freiling, and also on the line we have our President, Tech Sergeant Leah White. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who logged in this morning and taking time out of your busy schedules to join us and hear this bio brief that we have today. I know everybody has a busy schedule, so I just want to jump right in and get started. I'm going to introduce our guest speakers, Major Sims, and also Tech Sergeant Della Creech. So,
good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I will hand it over to you guys and let you go ahead and begin.
All right, good morning, everyone. This is Major Sims. I'm in the building, not on video due to the Wi-Fi, but I'm going to let Sergeant Creech run through the slides, and I'll chime in every now and then. But Sergeant Creech has created a great briefing for you guys today. And at the end of this, I just want to say that we're still a resource for you all. So if you have any questions following the briefing, feel free to reach out to either one of us. So over to you, Sergeant Creech.
Good morning, good morning. I am Technical Sergeant Della Creech here with the Headquarters ARPC Public Affairs Office, and I am a Public Affairs Specialist. Ultimately, Public Affairs Specialists are the individuals that you would send your bio to provide that proof or that editing, and so I'm here to help guide you through the bio writing process. What we have here is a beautiful presentation brought to you by ARPC's wonderful team at Rising 6. And this team has put together a know-all bio brief how-to situation. And so we all see the bios and we all know that we will need them at some point, but not everyone knows how to create your own bio and who actually verifies it to make sure that it's 100% correct. Okay, so this help instruct airmen on a larger scale what is required in their biographies and how you can access those resources. So let's get started. Some of you may have seen the flyer provided for this Rising 6 bio writing meeting, and you may have noticed due to a typo, I had a promotion for the day. So this is a very simple typo that anyone could make, and we can all agree that words are important. And today we're going to review how our Air Force bio can properly portray us. So let's get started with the instructions. As we mentioned earlier today, our Rising 6 ARPC team has brought this brief to us. We're going to be going over a few different things when it comes to bios. There are different sections, as you're well aware. We have the guidance. Where exactly do we get the information? How exactly do we put this together? Is there a rule or are we making this up? Who needs the bio? The basic information, education, assignments, summary of joint assignments. All these are sections in your bio that we'll be going over today. So that way we can help people now and in the future. All right. Where in the world can we find the guidance? Well, as you know, the Air Force loves their AFIs and they also love their tongue and quill. So we have two different sets of guidance that you can go by. The tongue and quill is going to assist you with the writing styles, whereas the visual information AFI is going to assist you with the bio photo. Who can help us and who even needs a bio? Okay, so this is the golden question. You see a bio on every single .mil website in which the bios are normally officers for the ARPC. We usually do like 06s and things like that. But everyone really needs a bio. Just keep it in the works, keep it running for you. And this is just a slide to show you the technicality of where you can find the regulations and things like that. And if you're ever in doubt, just pull up General Scobie's bio because you know that his is going to be on point. That's the beautiful thing about us being so connected as an Air Force, is that you can always pull up things like that. The good thing is keep your bio up to date, but you never have to completely re-accomplish your bio. So that's always a good note. And then the official photo part, you need an official photo, and I'm going to help you with that. Don't fret. Please don't ask your auntie to take a photo of you because It's not military regulated. I will be able to tell you where exactly you can get one and who to contact and how to make sure it's official, because if a family member takes your photo, unfortunately, they don't meet the same guidelines as what a professional military photographer, such as public affairs personnel, would be able to accomplish. So, in our next few slides, we'll be explaining what we're looking for in our professional bio photos and how you can receive it. I know that I've worked at bases before that offer times every drill weekend to come in and get your bio completed. And you can always call your public affairs office to ask when and where. All right. These are just general guidelines for the bios. You have formatting, you have the length of the bio, you have jargon, which is the acronyms that you're using. And then you, of course, have some dates. And the dates can't be the same in every single section because it's the Air Force. So, if it was right, it would be wrong. So this is just a little bit of the regulations that you need to go by. So moving along to state names. There are proper ways to cite your state names, whether you're using the city and state or simply a state. Therefore, if you are from Montana, you can say that you're from Montana all day long and spell out the whole state name. Whereas if you're from a specific town or your base is in a specific town, such as Irwin, North Carolina, you would need to spell out Irwin, but then abbreviate North Carolina. And of course, there's additional rules with which states we spell out completely and which states we are allowed to abbreviate, in which I've placed it right there on the slide for you. This is from the AP Style Guide. That is our guidance for how we write in the military in general. So if you're from Alaska, Hawaii, Iowa, Maine, Texas, Utah, you are just so special because we spell out the names of your states every time, whereas we abbreviate majority of our state names. So once again, just to clarify, if you're from Mississippi, that is correct. You can spell out the whole word. Whereas if you're from a specific town, such as Biloxi, Mississippi, you would spell out Biloxi, comma, abbreviate Mississippi, which the abbreviation is right here for your guidance. It's the little things like that that often get confused or lost in the process. So we're happy to correct that. All right. Beautiful. Moving along. These are some ranks. So the neat thing, as everyone knows, the Air Force was grown from the Army, originally the Army Air Corps. As we all learned in Air Force history, and I'm sure we reflect back all the time with our nightly reading on our Air Force history information. And the beautiful thing about that is that we can use the abbreviations from the Army as far as our officers go, because we have the same ranks as the Army does. And therefore, all of our officers' abbreviations, they're the same as the Army. I did include the little bit of information down here, which is the AP style book. This is our guidance. And then also the free one, pretty much, because if you go to AP style book, they'll ask you to subscribe. Well, you don't have to. You can always Google, AP style book, military ranks, and you'll have a different link. So I included that little link down here that includes every single abbreviation. Let's say that you did some special mission or you worked with some random branch of the Coast Guard. Well, the Air Force doesn't always know all the Coast Guard's ranks and abbreviations. So the AP style book helps us out with that. And it has every single ranks abbreviation in there in every single branch. All right, we've made it to the bio section. Great. So now we're getting started on our bio. And now that we know what needs to be abbreviated and what font point and what font to use, we can get started with writing. Okay, this is what we're going to say to the world because we have so much to tell them in our little bio. Because usually, as an enlisted airman, you're most likely writing this bio for an award package, and you are here to compete. So let's get started on our basic information. Fun. All right. So the first line, who you currently are. For example, ARPC recently had a change of command where one commander exited and one commander entered. So when I was reviewing their bios, Brigadier General Johnson, I would now put the very first line saying that she is the commander of ARPC because she currently is. She assumed that title, whereas she was coming from another title. I wouldn't say on that first line, her old position, because now she is ARPC and this is her home and we're keeping her, right? And so you want to say exactly who you are, that current line. Major Sims, do you have any input on that?
No, it's
All right.
pretty basic. You can look at General Scobie's bio, and every senior leader bios start definitely with name and then their current position. So you're pretty much on point there, Sergeant Creech.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving along to the second paragraph. Now, this is where people start to get a little bit into the weeds, is the second paragraph. And you're going to put a few things about you. Like for myself, I've cross-trained from another career field into this career field. I might select that, I was air transportation for 7 years with the 81st Aerial Corps in Joint Base Charleston. But now I transferred over in 2018 or 2017 to be public affairs specialist. So I would include that briefly, but you don't have to go into the weeds with that. The big thing to hit on this is that make sure everything on your bio is chronological, okay? You don't want to skip back and forth between decades or generations, but you do want to place your information. So if I first got into the Air Force in 1994, that's going to be the very first line. If I am currently serving as the commander of ARPC, then that would be the very last line, if that makes sense. We'll go over a little bit more about that in a minute. Now, the third paragraph, this is the fun stuff. So as you know, some of our flyers, they are citizen airmen. So that means that they are not just flying for the Air Force. They may also be flying outside at Delta or American or wherever they'd like to, but they're not going to lead with that. So what they're going to do is, it's wonderful that they work for these different airlines, but the Air Force is not a branding organization. And therefore, even though you are a Delta pilot, you cannot put that you're a Delta pilot in your bio. What you can put is that you work for a civilian aviation company. And here are a few examples. So if you're a pilot for American, simply state that in her civilian capacity, the colonel is a pilot with a major airline. Now that covers that they are a pilot with a major airline without saying, this is an advertisement for American Airlines. That's the beauty of it. So we don't brand things, but we do want to make sure that we mention their accomplishments in their civilian world, especially as most of us are citizen airmen. All right, and now the big fun part that everybody is a little confused on, and they just never really know where to get these photos done or anything like that. So now we're going to hit on the photo. And everyone wants to look their best, be their best as you are every single day. So when you're looking at this photo, the things that you're seeing are the background. You're seeing the lighting. You're seeing the uniform. You want to make sure that this is perfect in every single way. And so Brigadier General Johnson here has her beautiful American flag to the left of her, and it's hitting her shoulder at 45 degrees. Now, this is just fun stuff that the photographer would know as a public affairs specialist in the military, that maybe your Auntie Jean don't know. Therefore, we would like you to schedule with your PA office when you can come in and get that official photo made. Usually for TRs or anyone who does drill, or if there's specific times that everyone's there, they'll set aside a time. I know at Joint Base Charleston, every Sunday, 0800 to 1000, we set aside time for anybody and everybody to come in, take their bio photos. Just let us know whether you need a bio photo or a full body photo, in which all of that information is included in your awards package or whatever package you need the photo for. And we'll make sure that the office is set up exactly the way that you need it to be taken. And we include that flag in the background. So it is hitting her shoulder at the 45-degree angle. She opted to also have the Air Force flag in the background, which you'll see a lot. It's very common for the higher ranking officers, especially at the Pentagon and things like that. They'll have their Air Force flag in the background. That is completely okay, as long as it is reflecting the American flag, and your public affairs specialist will take care of that. We will also take care of how beautiful you look in the lighting. So you see that she looks very natural. You can see the details in her hair being put away, and you can also see the tonage in her skin. And as much as we love our airmen, and as much as our job is to make you look wonderful and strong and confident, unfortunately, we are not legally allowed to Photoshop any photo. So please come looking your best, because that's exactly how we have to produce it. We are not allowed to alter any images. We can't give you a tan and we can't take one away. So she looks nice and natural. It's a nice soft light. And you'll notice that the background is a neutral tone of gray. And all PA shops should have this background. So you don't have to worry about the technicality as much, as long as you're going to a PA shop. This is why I emphasize that unfortunately friends and family cannot take these professional photos for you, and the public affairs shop is here to do it for you. And then the last thing is the biggest thing. We want to make sure that her whole uniform is rocking and rolling, right? We don't need any upside down ribbons. We don't need, your US symbols hanging off of your uniform. And so this is very important that you check your blues once in a while, just because unfortunately we cannot hold your uniform accountable if you arrive and it's fallen apart. You've scheduled an appointment with us and your uniform is fallen apart because you haven't worn it since basic training. And when you arrive to your PA shop to get this photo taken, we assume that you have inspected your uniform, you know what ribbons you received, you know what rank you are, and you have your uniform ready to go. One example is that I had an airman that was nominated for Airman of the Quarter. Wonderful, huge accomplishment. He was a great guy, and I believe he was like a maintainer. And so any type of career field that is out in the field on a regular basis, they don't tend to, inspect their uniforms as often as someone who wears their blues once in a while. I know when I first joined, we would go to classes, and the rule of thumb was to show up first day in your blues. So we no longer do that, which is good. And it's also bad because we don't inspect our uniforms as often as we should. This airman showed up, and he was about 7 foot tall. He had to hunch over to fit into his blues, and he needed a full body photo. As he walked through my studio, his shoes began disintegrating. There was a trail of black powder following him because he had not checked his shoes in the 7 years that he had been in. So this is a big issue when it comes to me trying to make you look professional and competitive when it comes to these packages. I want to make sure you look the best possible. And he said, "Is there any way you can Photoshop this?" I can't. And I do ask for everyone to inspect their blues, make sure they're up to par. Another situation is we had a gentleman who won an award, and I had to include his professional headshot in the slideshow, and his ribbon rack was upside down. So this is something that if I'm not an AE crew or a medical expert and you have medical ribbons, I don't necessarily see that all the time. And so PA can't know your uniform head to toe. Unfortunately, we see so many uniforms. We really do rely on you to know what kind of photo you need, which is included in your award packet description, and also your career field. Like, this is just specific for you. If you have any questions or comments on that, then I'm happy to help. The big thing with professional photos is that your bio photo should and will be taken by your PA office, and you can schedule it by going online, contact your PA office, and schedule an appointment. Headquarters ARPC is happy to email out the link for our specific PA shop for you to get your professional bio taken care of. But each base has their own PA shop that takes care of that professional photo. So you should never worry about not having a professional to take that photo. We're here for you. All right, so this is some fun stuff. Going back to the technicality, you see that we have your name is going to be written in bold, all cap locks. It's 13.5 font. So these are the technicalities that you get to reflect back and forth and make sure that they are up to par with our regulations. Just check the regulations to make sure that the regulations haven't changed. There's nothing special about the updates, and you'll start seeing the bios come out if there is a change, and there'll be something a little different. But this is verbatim what is needed for your paragraphs.
Hey, Sergeant Creech, this is Major Sims. Just a tip for those that are putting their bios together. You mentioned earlier in a previous slide that the font type is Arial, just the font size will be adjusted. The only change in the text is going to be that first headline. It's 13.5 like you have right there. The rest of the bio is Arial font 9. So what I do when I edit these bios is I update the header and then just copy everything else and just make that the one font. We'll go into the education and the assignments a little bit later. Those headers are bold, but it's just a easy little tip whenever you're editing the font size and the type. You can just copy and paste and or copy the entire document and just make it that one font size and font type. Going back to the previous slide, I'm sorry I was on mute. I tried to chime in, but you have it here. The first paragraph is your current assignment. Let's go back. There you go. Who I am and what I do. Right after that statement is when you'll go into the broader mission of whether the organization or wing that you're in or your current position. So that's how that will flow. And also she's mentioning the second and third paragraph. When you're doing your bio, you have a little bit of leeway in how you want to present yourself. So I've seen bios that just have 2 paragraphs. Most senior leader bios, since their career spans 20 or more years, they have a lot of information and a third paragraph will be necessary, but don't feel like you have to have 3 paragraphs if you're making your bio. The most important thing is just the content in there. It's not as important to have 3 paragraphs in there. And then finally, I've seen a couple instances where people took a little liberty with how they communicated what they did in their civilian capacity. It's always safe just to say, like she's got written here, in her civilian capacity is you are a realtor or you are an executive with a Fortune 500 company, something like that. So if you just follow those guidelines and kind of tailor it to what you've seen other senior leader bios look like, then you'll always be in good shape. So Sergeant Crease, that's all I have for that one.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And here are the direct technicalities. As we mentioned a little bit before, this goes a little bit more into the details so you can make sure that it's 100% correct. And then at the bottom, we do see a little example. And I made it smaller. I made it in Arial font because I personally, I have great eyesight, and I think that 9 point is a little bit too small, but this is the technicality per our regs. Maybe it'll change in the future, but this is exactly what it'll look like. Prior to her current position, Brigadier General Johnson held the position of mobilization assistant to the commander at 618th Air Operations Center, Scott Air Force Base, Illinois. All right, so this is verbatim. It has everything in chronological order. It has her proper AP style rank in her name. Her job position, which was mobilization assistant to the commander, and then where that was located. So all of this is verbatim. Neat. And here's a little example. Major Sims, do you have anything to add to this example in the first 3 paragraphs?
Yeah, I got the so thanks, Sergeant Picard. I'm not sure if you're on the line or not, but Sergeant Picard gave me his bio and allowed me to kind of chew it up for this presentation today. And I had a few things I saw in the first couple paragraphs. So in the first line, it says Sergeant Picard is the current human resources specialist. Current is not needed. It's obvious that this is your current position. And then in parentheses, it says military. It's obvious that he's assigned to ARPC, and this is a military bio, as you can see from the photo. So those are just a few things that's less is more in this. Need to be concise. So folks that may not be that familiar with what you do are going to be reading this, and when they see those things like current and military, it might just raise questions in the reader's mind, and that's what you want to try to avoid. The next one was the directorate. Again, that might not resonate with certain people outside of ARPC. So I'll again just remind him to kind of make it concise and tailor the verbiage to a wider audience. Let's see, internal support of customer base. And I just put in I highlighted it and I gave him some other directions just to make sure that it's readable and understandable to a wider audience. The next thing that I highlighted in there was about the mission. So it says that ARPC is here to deliver total force warfighting capability for the Air Force. I would recommend, if you're going to put something in there like that, to go to find the mission statement for your organization. So my recommendation to him here was to change that to we deliver total force personnel services to enhance warfighting readiness. And that's the mission statement for ARPC. If you go by the mission statement for your organization, you can do no wrong. So that's something easy that you can insert into your bio that kind of adds a little bit of punch to it. Another thing, there was another incident where he referred to ARPC as a center. Internal to ARPC, we call ourselves the center a lot, but that's just something internal to us. Again, we need to make this up for the wider audience, or readable for the wider audience. And then the last line there is an example of what he does in the civilian capacity. And this, he said, he utilized the civilian education to become a real estate agent and business owner in Denver. I go back to what I said previously about just going by what you've seen for General Johnson or any other senior leader's bio, and just have the statement say, in his civilian capacity, Sergeant Picard is a realtor and a business owner in the Denver area. And again, don't feel like you have to have something for your civilian capacity if you're an ART or an AGR. If it applies to you and it's going to make your bio stand out, if you're applying for a job and an award, definitely include it, but it's not absolutely necessary. So for the narration or narrative portion, that's really all I saw in his bio. And lastly, I kind of wanted to point out that he has 2 paragraphs here, which is completely fine. So back to you, Sergeant Creech.
Beautiful. There's always something to learn from every different bio, because as Major Sims and I were discussing before the meeting started, different people have different qualifications. You may have publications, you may be a real estate agent. I mean, there's different things that go into your bio. So everyone's case is a little bit different. And that's where your PA team chimes in to make sure that the verbiage is correct and you're good to go. So we're always here to help. And as I mentioned earlier, you can always default to General Scobie. Awesome. So thank God for his brilliant PA team. As you see, he has the 3 paragraphs and he has all of his ranks abbreviated. He has everything in chronological order. I mean, he knows what he's doing. His PA team has his back, and we have everything fit into those 3 paragraphs. So even if you have been in as long as General Scobie and done as many wonderful things as General Scobie, you can get it all into those 3 paragraphs in the beginning. All right. Part 2, woohoo! Let's see how smart we are. All right, we are all so educated, and this bio is here to show you just how educated we are. So once again, we're going to go back to those fonts and styles and sizes, and we're going to hit on our first header, which is education. Of course, it's going to be bold, it's going to be cap locks, but what you don't need is a colon or an underline. I know that it's very important that you don't have to underline your education, because we already know that our airmen are the sharpest tools in the shed. So we're very proud of you guys. And you just need to bold and cap locks it. And then we'll be like, oh, wow, you went to the same university that I did. We have a bond. You're the best selection for this award package. We're going back to chronological order. Please put it in chronological order. If you got your first degree in 94 and you got your second one in 2007, great. Just put it in order. That's great. All right, neat. And then we'll look at a few examples of the way it rolls. You're going to put your type of degree. I have a master's. You're going to put the title of your degree in business. And then you're going to put from the University of Illinois. And then the city and state. Oh, this University of Illinois, it was in, Chicago. So if you have the exact location, then you're going to put city, state. And if you just write state, we're going to go back to the state abbreviations, and we're just going to write Illinois. So beautiful thing.
One thing I've seen, Sergeant Creech, is if the university, the name of the state is in the the university, like University of North Carolina. There's a lot of senior leaders like Moore, who's previous commander here. There's a PME for general officers that's at North Carolina University at Chapel Hill. So on her bio, it'll say University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and it will end right there. So it's repetitive to put NC at the end of it, and that's not needed. So if University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa, University of Illinois at, I think it's in Champaign. Those are some examples that I've seen that I've made corrections on in the past. So I just want to pass that along. And something else is the spacing. If you look at the examples under education, you got 1994, one space, and then the school or the degree you got. I've seen a lot of them where they're tabbed or too wide a space. So if you look in the tongue and quill, or if you look in the guidance that comes from the Pentagon, all those have just one space. So that's just something else to keep in mind.
Beautiful. All right. Yes. And as you mentioned before, a lot of universities say UNC, Chapel Hill, or then we have those fun universities that are all online. That would be a correspondence. So when you're putting the location, you would put a little parentheses, correspondence, and that just lets people know that it was online. No big deal. I don't think it's even needed if it's just an online degree. Is it, Major Sims?
I think University of Phoenix is an online institution, but any institution, if you took it online, you could put by correspondence. And this also includes your military education. So most reservists will do our PME, our Squadron Officer School, or anything like that via correspondence. So put that in there. But if you actually went in residence, that's when you would make the designation, say Maxwell Air Force Base, Montgomery, Alabama.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. And back to our example, you see in the education section, as Major Sims was mentioning, the spacing is important. That first line that says 1992, the spacing's off, and then the second line is correctly spaced. Just pay attention to the size of your font and stuff like that, because when you're typing and it's like 1991, unfortunately, it's going to take up a little bit less space on the page. So just make sure it's all lined up the right way and it has the proper spacing. This is also where people get into the weeds when it comes to the states. If you notice, he got his first 2 degrees in Texas. He just wrote Texas. Wonderful. Thank you. Whereas the next degree he received in New Jersey, and the other one's California. So he went ahead and did the AP style shortening of the abbreviation. So that's perfect. That's what we like to see. Sometimes when you're adding in degrees, it gets lost in the weeds because some of them are abbreviated and some of them aren't. And when you're looking at it real quick, you just look and say, yep, I have all my degrees. And you don't realize that some of the states aren't abbreviated the right way. That's uniformity that we do look for. And also, I do want to mention that when you mention a location, such as Charleston Air Force Base or Joint Base Charleston, you only have to spell out everything the very first mention, and afterwards you don't have to reference it. It's called first and second reference. And a good example would be that you went to the Non-Commissioned Officers Academy, but then later on you can reference the academy as the NCO Academy. All right, we've made it to assignments. Let's just see how cool you are in the Air Force, because we know you've done some assignments and we know that you brought this to the table. All right, shock. We need it in chronological order, guys. So start with 94, end up in 2021. That's awesome. It goes back to the dates, how you're going to write it, month and year, and then squadron unit. It just rolls right through there. The thing that you really need to look at on here is that if you do a deployment, for example, I am technically stationed at Joint Base Charleston, but I deployed to IUD Qatar. So I'm owned by Charleston. I deployed to Qatar, and I would put that information in parentheses, and that shows that I did a deployment while I was still stationed at Joint Base Charleston. You'll see that in the example down there on number 1. We're going to capitalize we're going to capitalize a few things in here, and then the new bios submitted after 2011. We just want to make sure that those are on point. The big thing here is just the deployments. Really keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, so if you have a date with a month and a date, so August 5th, 2021, August would be abbreviated, but if you're just saying August 2001, then you would spell out the month. So all the in the assignment section, since you don't have dates, all the months will be spelled out to go with the year.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So that's just hitting back on our abbreviation slides. Just make sure you're paying attention to that fun stuff. Like you mentioned, when it's just a month, spell out the whole month. If you have a month, date, and year, then you can abbreviate. But when it comes to deployments, you don't need to tell them exactly what date you left and exactly what date you came home. You are specifically going to say August to July, whenever it was. All right, and here's a nice example. Here's some of our assignments. And as you see, the highlighted portion down here in assignments is going to be his deployment. So he got to deploy to hardcore Aviana, Italy. You poor thing, Sergeant Picard. I feel so bad for you having to deploy to Italy. But yes, so he put it in the parentheses, and that's exactly the way we want it. He has his assignments going from 93 all the way to the second page. He has 12 assignments, so that's excellent. You'll see that his last assignment was in 2019, so that's the most recent. So it's chronological, excellent. And then he has all these fun-filled little deployments. Oh, wow, he got to go to Germany, Italy. I don't feel sorry for him at all. So anyways, we're going to move along. Summary of joint assignments. So joint assignments are a little different, and you'll see this a lot with officers. And so sometimes it's not just an Air Force assignment. You may be working with several different components, and you want to make sure that it's documented correctly. And so summary of joint assignments. Let's get started. All right. Once again, we're going back to chronological order. We're doing the month, date, year, official title, very similar to the other assignments. You just want to make sure that they are documented correctly. So here is an example down here at the bottom. You see that it's joint staff. You just want to make sure that it is all 100% correct. Now, if you don't have joint assignments, it's no big deal. Just delete the section. You're good to go. Major Sims, do you have any input on this one?
Nope, not on the joint assignments.
Yes, sir. All right, so there you go, and we'll move along. Flight information. All right, all you flyers out there, listen up. We're going to document it. We're going to make you sound cool even on your bio. And then you can go back to your other wingmen and say, thank you so much for supporting our mission so we could do what we could do. All right, flight information. You're going to go ahead and put your rating and your flight hours, because we want to know not that you were just on the plane, that you were actually the command pilot, or you were whatever you were to the air crew. And then we also want to know your hours, because anyone who is familiar with aviation, hours are the make and break. If you were a pilot versus a secondary, then the main pilot would be they call it first seat and second seat. So first seat would get the aviation hours, whereas second seat would not be technically the command pilot, they would be second seat. But either way, you're going to put your aircraft, you're going to put your hours, and it's all going to be included right there as you see in the example. Major awards and decks and other awards. All right, so you guys are killing it out there, and we want to make sure that your awards and decorations, no big deal, they're just kind of mentioned, right? And so we're going to make sure that they are annotated on your bio, and you can say, oh yeah, that little thing, yeah, I was NCO of the quarter, no big deal, but there it is. All right, fun field stuff. So here's the technicality for your awards and decks. And customary with regular Air Force to only list achievement medals and higher honors, with ribbons not listed unless significant. But I mean, that's your choice, whether you want to list all of your awards. I think you should, because you earned them. And as long as it reaches the stipulation of less than 2 pages. So you don't need a whole page of awards and decks. I know you're awesome, but go by rule of thumb. Okay. Here's an example down here. And there's no need to put that in alphabetical. All right. So you see the major awards and decorations? It's pretty spelled out for you. It's not too complicated. If you earned it, put it on there. I do suggest put it in chronological order, even though I would much prefer it in alphabetical order. The Air Force says maintain it in meritorious order, such as the most important first to the least important, or the most prestigious first to the lower level awards. You don't have to put the year on there. So that's cool. All right, publications. So this is where it gets a little different. If you don't have publications, it's not a big deal, but you'll find some of our other individuals. Let's say you are a writer. You're an airman and you have published so many books about the military. That's wonderful. You might want to put that on there. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the option to put that on there if you like. And this is how you do it. Anyone who has dealt with MLA format or AP style guide format, it goes by that, and you'll see this here and there, but not always. It's kind of a rarity. I just decided to include it because if you wrote a book, you deserve to have that on your bio. So there you go. All right, effective dates of promotion. Promote. That's the way you should do it. So we want to know when you promoted and how fast you promoted, that kind of stuff, and why you promoted so fast. So if I see that you were airman below the zone, that's excellent. So we want to see that promotion list. All right, and this is exactly how you write it. You really need to make sure that you have the.
I think Sergeant Creech just lost her connection. She'll be back shortly and she'll bring up the slides again. She was on the section about the dates of promotion. And this is where I mentioned earlier where you have the month, that's when you would abbreviate it. And we start with the rank, then date of promotion. It's not the date and the rank. So I've seen that error a couple of times.
So we'll just move along. Effective dates of promotion are very important. We want to see when you were promoted, and the bio update at the very bottom keeps your bio up to date. And so you just want to make sure that you were recently promoted and someone looks at your bio, they don't say, oh, well, the new rank that they currently are is not on there. They are able to look at it and see that you updated it last year and that the new rank is not on there. All right, these are just a few examples. And everywhere you go to a .mil website, an airforce.mil, you're going to see an About Us tab, and this will have every single bio available. Here's a solid example. It's Chief Bass, and she has hers on point. As you see, it's a leadership website from the Air Force, and so all of hers is going to be 100% amazing. And this is a solid example. Everything all put together. Now it is time for questions. Questions, comments available.
Hey, Sergeant Creech, it's Sergeant White. I don't know if you can hear me. We had a question earlier from Chief Hemmer. How does the bio change now that photos have been removed?
Yes, so bios are supposed to have the photo. They're not supposed to be removed, but I can verify and get back to you 100% just to see if the qualification is that you have to have a photo or you do not have to have a photo. To my knowledge, you always have to have a photo, and we can put out that link for the headquarter ARPC just so you can reach out to our PA office and we can help you schedule your bio photo. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other questions? I see that there is also a question about decorations. There is a regulation that I'll also be sending out to all the participants today. And I'll send out that regulation, which has whether it's the most important award or if it is more chronological. I believe it is most important and then chronological, if that makes sense first. Beautiful. Okay, so we have a question saying, how would you even list your duty title if you were different things in one location? So the neat thing is that personally, I held different titles at one location, and you can definitely mention what title you were at that location. You just mention it like it's a new title. So just like if you say you were a joint inspector with the 81st Aerial Corps, you could simply list that in order of precedence. So let's say that you're putting in a packet for NCO of the quarter and you held all these different positions at the same base, that's totally fine. You don't need to mention the base over and over and over again, but you can just put a sequential order of what you held as long as it's fluid.
Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, I want to say thank you to Tech Sergeant Creech, Major Sims, for doing this bio brief for us and being our guest speakers. I hope some of you or all of you got some good information from here, some valued information, and like everybody, we're all here to help each other. Anyone have questions, definitely reach out to us. You can email us at the Rising Six, our ARPC Rising Six email. You can reach out to Tech Sergeant Creech. You can reach out to myself. Also, I wanted to mention any of our ARPC members. I have been in contact with our 460th PA, and for anybody that attended this meeting, we have 10 slots available for to take your professional bio photo. So if you can just email me if you're interested and you want to do that. I'm going to take the 10 first people. So go ahead and either email the Rising Six email or myself. All right, thank you, everyone.
Just a reminder, you can find this PowerPoint in this video on our YouTube page, and then we also have different outlets for further briefings in the future. As you see on our Facebook pages, we'll be happy to deliver the information as well as via email. And a special thanks to our beautiful team at Rising Six. So we really appreciate you guys, and we're happy to do it.
Yes, thank you. So that will conclude our meeting. Thank you, everyone.